Okay, Doug, thanks for joining and doing a presentation this year. We missed you last year because you were busy working.
Yeah, sorry.
But I messaged Doug late last night that a podcast I did in America a few weeks ago while we were both in Sydney for a social work intensive, and Doug during that podcast was asleep on the balcony in the apartment, and he said, "Could you was there any audible snoring sounds?" And there weren't, thank goodness, because that would appear very unprofessional about what us outdoorsy people are really like. Um,
Ah,
yes. So, Doug, I'm going to shut up and pass over to you. Thanks for doing this, and I'm looking forward to the presentation.
oh, thanks for having me again. Well, g'day everybody. Um, my name's Doug, and I'll kick us off with an acknowledgement to country. So, as Will has lovely introduced me, I'm Doug. I am the son of a Polish refugee after World War II from my father's side, and on my mother's side, immigrated from England. So I'm a first geno Australian, and my family have only been here for a short time. So I want to acknowledge that today I'm on Gunai Kurnai country, a land and a country that has never been ceded, and I want to pay my respects to the thousand generations of First Nations people that came before us. And being that I am a very white Australian, working as a youth worker and also sometimes in outdoor therapy, want to acknowledge that I am out and about on country all the time. And usually an acknowledgement in Australia is, it can be a tokenistic thing, but also um, what it is meant to be is that we acknowledge that we are on traditional country, and usually um, the tradition is that you get welcomed to country, and with a welcome, you also get passed on the rules of how to stay safe on country and how to keep country safe. And then, as an acknowledgement, as someone visiting that country who's not from there, you acknowledge that you know those rules and you know how to move around country. These days, I guess it's more of a political thing. And I also like to acknowledge that I don't necessarily know how to keep country safe. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that when we're doing things like this, we need to hold that in mind and try and work in a collaborative approach with traditional owners and country, and yeah, do the right thing. And here's a lovely video of the country that I live and play and work on. Just a beautiful example of Gippsland here in the southeast part of Australia. And today is all about, I'm going to just go to this little slicky slide. Today is all about not Doug's face, but trying to trying to give a positive example to our youth. And in Gippsland, this is another beautiful little slide. This is Gippsland, sort of, and this is taken from our Gunai Kurnai Land Management Board, and it shows it's the southeast part of Australia, and this is the little bit of Victoria that I'm from, and it shows roughly the the five tribes of the Gunai Kurnai um, traditional owners. So this is a beautiful place. I'm super biased. I think Gippsland is one of the most beautiful places in Australia. Showcases everything from an amazing coastline, Wilson's Promontory. If some of you have heard that, that's this guy here. This is sort of just out the back of my house at a stream somewhere. We've got the Gippsland Lakes, our own Gippsland Water Dragon. We have sweeping plains, we have vast alpine areas. We've got everything, and pretty much we're an hour from everywhere. So Gippsland is an amazing and beautiful location where many private schools, public schools come to do their outdoor education camps, as well as we're a tourist destination. We're known for our food and our wine, and it's probably, yeah, the best place in the world, I reckon. But Gippsland has a bit of a dark side, and I guess something that I'm really passionate about. I've spent 20 years working in youth services and out of home care, and I just need to get rid of. I can't see my notes. How do I get rid of the chat? No, doesn't matter. Um, best laid plans, Will.
I know.
Uh, oh no, I can do it. There we go. Um, so I've been working for about 20 odd years, almost 20 years, in youth services in one way or another in Gippsland. And for all Gippsland's beauty and abundance, we also hold the highest rate of domestic violence in the state. It changes year to year, roughly, but we're always, within the top three. Um, so this is some statistics taken from the Gippsland Family Violence Alliance. Say that quickly. And this is data from 2024. And just a bit of a caveat on this. So the data that they use is taken from Victoria Police. So this is for all domestic violence call outs that Victoria Police have responded to. So what it doesn't capture is it doesn't capture the entirety of what is actually happening. This is just what's reported to police and then what police actually respond to. So, I mean, Will, you're a stats man, I'm not, but something that I think needs to be highlighted is this statistic here where it's saying there's been a 21% increase in breaches of family violence order. So, if there's an intervention order or something like that, and in 2024. So it's increasing. And there's many factors to that, which we'll get into in a little bit. But it's a significant issue here in Gippsland. And then within Gippsland, we have different regions. So I live in West Gippsland. My work is in the Latrobe Valley. We've got South Gippsland, Bass Coast, East Gippsland, and Wellington Shire as well. So number one last year in domestic violence reporting, based on these statistics, was East Gippsland, followed closely by the Latrobe Valley where I work at number two. And it changes year to year, but we're always up there. So it's a pretty horrifying statistic. And I just want to go back to this slide. When we talk about what causes domestic violence, generally what is described by the Alliance is a gender disparity gap between male and females and the equality that we're not reaching. I think it's probably a lot more than that, but I guess it's a good place to start. One of my mentors who has the brain the size of a planet, and I call her my work mum, this is something that she's advocated for years and years and years. And in discussions with her, we've discussed things like, especially in the Latrobe Valley here, things like intergenerational poverty. There's a low education attainment, social infrastructure, and society are weakened by unemployment, alcohol, and drug use. In the Latrobe Valley here, we've got a big power industry. So surrounded by this natural beauty, and right in the middle where the freeway goes through, we have big open cut coal mines, and then we have power stations which power the region. And a while ago, we had the privatization of those power stations, which then resulted in masses of job loss from the closure of power stations, and the change in ownership. And recently, we've had one of our big power stations closed down as well, just in current times. And people losing their jobs and either not willing or not able to move into other regions or change careers, then become dependent on services. And as a result, we've had a concentration of services here in the valley to, provide for those people. And then we've got a bit of a flow-on effect where we then get into intergenerational poverty, substance misuse, and then leading to domestic violence. And then we have young women victims of that domestic violence, and then their children, and the flow-on effect, it just keeps compounding and compounding, and we're not really addressing the problem. And on top of that, we could add down in Gippsland too, with colonization. One of the worst places for massacres towards our First Nations people here. So right from the get-go, we this whole region has been established on not so great times, despite its beauty. What else did I want to tell you? So something that I find interesting is when you look at the statistics, again, the fact that this is just from police reports and where the police have responded to. But the statistic changes roughly from year to year, but it's around about 1 in 3 women by the age of 15 have experienced sexual harassment. And I think it's 1 in 5 have experienced assault. Now, talking to my wife and good friends of mine who are female or female identifying, and when we talk about those statistics, they always scoff and they go, well, I think you find, Doug, that it's actually every single woman. And then my wife, and we were just having this conversation the other day, and her friend, they were like, well, Doug, you probably don't walk out the door and even think about whether or not, what are you wearing? Where are you going? What time of day is it? You're not really scanning the crowd to see if it's safe or not. And I'm not saying that this is everybody, but the vast majority of women that I talk to say that when they leave the house or when they go places, it is at the back of their mind about whether or not it's safe for them. And I mean, we say it's not all males, and of course it's not all males, but unfortunately, women and female identifying people need to consider how safe they are with men every day. So we probably need to try harder to show that we are indeed safe, we're self-aware, hopefully nurturing, and we can be positive examples of safe, what a safe and respectful relationship is. And if it's not just for our young males, but also for females as well, because, you want your daughters and your friends' daughters to have a high expectation of what a safe relationship is. So, this is another quote from the Gippsland Family Violence Alliance. Gippsland, and this is their definition of sort of the main contributors to family violence. Gippsland LGAs have high rates of family violence due to gender inequality, which has resulted in unequal outcomes for men and women in economic, education, and health opportunities within our Gippsland communities. Family violence exists in all communities, regardless of race, gender, religion, or economic status, with much of it going unreported and unseen. I think the point is really important to take home is that it's not just in low socioeconomic communities, it's everywhere. And I think it needs to be highlighted more. Cool. How are we doing time-wise? We're doing good, aren't we, Will? Also, I encourage people to interrupt me. If you've got a point you want to add, feel free to add or throw it in the chat. I'm happy to chat, but feedback is usually, Doug, you talk too much, so always happy to learn as well. So this is sort of a bit of a depressing way to start a webinar, but I guess the work that I am doing and that I hope to do is inspire people. My tagline is I'm working therapeutically with young people and I try and inspire other grown-ups to do the same thing. And I go, well, how do we do that, Doug? And Will, I remember years ago, I used to proudly say to you that I don't have a model. I don't I don't follow a model. I just do what I do, and that's okay. And you said, Doug, everyone has a model. Even not having a model is a model. And here I am, I don't know, 10 years later, about to introduce or reintroduce my own model. So I find that quite funny. So how do we counteract this? That's a big question, and it's, I think, something that maybe is too big for any one individual to do. But what I believe is that when we're working with youth, especially maybe youth that are experiencing challenges like um, complex trauma, disability, poverty, or just, looking to find themselves as you naturally do as an adolescent, which is a very age appropriate thing that Graham was talking about the other day. Um, as professionals, whether we are youth workers, whether we are outdoor educators, whether we are teachers, whether we are therapists, whether we are sports coaches, mentors, I think as grown-ups working with youth in any capacity, we have such a responsibility to provide them with an example of what a safe and attuned grown-up is. Now, I'm coming from a male perspective, but obviously, I think this is all adults. I think men have a lot of work to do just because statistically we are the causes of so much harm. So maybe we can actually be the causes of healing from that harm, or even shifting the trajectory of our youth before they become grown-ups themselves. So after overthinking for years and years and years, I came up with this idea when I was running my own service that, okay, I don't have a model. I don't have a way of doing things specifically, but everything that I do, I think it needs to be fun and it needs to be safe. So I used to say to kids, all right, what we're going to do today doesn't matter, as long as whatever we're doing, you're having fun and we're safe. And then chatting with my mate Will, when we were looking at how do we make Gippsland Adventure Therapy a little bit more intentional, and I was saying, yep, everything we do is fun and safe. Will goes, well, why don't you add useful to that as well? And with that useful part, then we also introduced feedback informed treatment, which was a way of measuring every individual's participation in the program and whether or not they were finding it useful or for their well-being, and how they engaged with myself in the program as well. So then we came up with this lovely little nice and neat oversimplified thing called fun, safe, and useful. So fun, safe, and useful, I guess, is a way of holding yourself accountable to working with youth today to try and promote positive relationships, try and improve well-being. Because if you can improve a young person's well-being, other things in their life, there's a flow-on effect as well. So, fixing their housing, that's a great thing, but maybe their life is still crap. Or helping them attend school. Yes, maybe they're attending school and they're compliant, but there's a whole lot of other things going at home, which means, their well-being is still not great. So if we can focus on helping young people engage with us safely, making what we do fun and relevant for them, and then ensuring that their interaction with us is having some sort of impact on their well-being, and we kind of we lift everything. And if we can provide them an example of what a attuned, self-aware, nurturing, emotionally intelligent, what else? Vulnerable male can be, and how they can interact safely with relationships, male, female, and other genders as well, then maybe we're going to provide them with an example, a foundation of how then when they move into adulthood and start to discover who they are, they look to those experiences that they had with positive individuals and went, you know what, that's something that I want to emulate. So I've got some notes here. Each young person, they have a history, a worldview influenced by their childhood experiences, their culture, their socioeconomic status, and a place of where they live. Now, we don't know, nor should we assume we know what's best for them. But when we meet young people in an activity, whether that's at school, whether that's rafting here on the Karen, which is the Thompson River here in Gippsland, or whether that is working in youth work or housing homelessness, whatever it is, we need to meet them as a human, not just as a participant or a number. We have to see them and show an example of what it is to be safe and respecting as an adult. No longer, I like this bit, no longer can we expect kids to trust us, or that we have their best interest at heart. I think we really need to start thinking about how we need to show them that we're worthy of that. So if we just break it down, here's a lovely little visual here for us. The other day, I just tried to brainstorm. Actually, I used a few other people to help me as well. Brainstorm each one of these elements of fun, safe, useful. And the idea is that, if you're working with young people, you can think to yourself, well, what's maybe 10 things about being fun that are, that I can use to inform my work? Because with kids and youth, actually with anybody, if you're doing something and it's fun, like it's a no-brainer. You're gonna, want to engage in it. And it's used as the way of drawing people in, so then they can be interested in you. And what's part of being fun? Well, playing, playfulness, like you're bringing humor into your sessions, whatever that is. Creativity. So, I think that approach of being a little bit novel, a little bit strange, a little bit weird, makes you interesting. So, some people use art, some people use movement, storytelling. It might be engaging with nature in a different way that maybe they haven't done before. You just use your imagination. Energy, model enthusiasm. So, I'm amazing outdoors. Like it's my jam. I love being outdoors. I love rafting. I love canoeing. I love sticks. I love sticks. And you pick up a stick and you're like, oh, that's a cool stick. Isn't that a cool stick? And then all of a sudden, if you're with a kid, they go, oh, yeah, I like sticks. Sticks are cool. And then you've just found something common that you're interested in. Well, the other week when we were walking in Sydney to the university intensives, walking down the concrete jungle, and we both looked down and there was this stick on the footpath, and we were both like, oh, that's a cool stick. Like you just look for those interesting, engaging moments in every day. And then, well, curiosity flows on with that too. Flexibility, it's so important. You come up with a plan, but then very quickly, especially when you're working with kids, you'll find that it doesn't matter what you think. You might go, hey, this is a cool stick. We're going to do some carving today. And you sit down and you break out the stuff. And then all of a sudden the young person's like, oh, that's great. But there's a really cool, creek over there. I want to go fishing, or I want to go put my feet in the creek. So you got to be flexible. You got to learn to pivot, as our friend Rick would say. Um, and flow. It's great to, it's great to sort of be flexible, but you've got to, so flow orientation, you've got to be into creating these immersive experiences that actually follow the energy of the young person. So you're flexible, but then if you can see that maybe their interest is heading down a line which is maybe less positive for what you're trying to achieve, you need to figure out how to bring it back to what's necessary. Celebrate big wins, small wins. They achieve something. Skill mastery is so important with young people. If they can do something and you can see, oh, that's amazing. You tied, my 6-year-old daughter, you tied your shoelaces, legend, go you. Or when you see them doing something difficult, and you can see them trying to do it in a positive way, you just highlight those moments, and it doesn't have to be over the top. You just like, I noticed that thing you did and that was cool. Novel. I think our friend Graham is great at being novel. You go for a walk with Graham in the bush and he's just looking at moss and doing all sorts of fun things, which draws kids in. It just makes you, oh, that's amazing. And be warm, be relational, show them that you're there for them, that you are excited to see them, and that your job is to look after them. I always say to young people when I meet them for the first time, my job is to make your experience of whatever we're doing as good as it possibly can be. I'm here for you. Safe. I'm just going to move on. If anyone wants to interrupt, feel free. So safe, especially in outdoor context, we always think, oh, don't hurt yourself, wear shoes, don't play with sticks, that sort of stuff. But what's probably more important is that you're providing an experience, and that doesn't have to be outside. It can be just in your day-to-day interaction with a young person. Um, it's our job to make them feel safe. And I say to them, it needs to be like emotionally safe as well as culturally safe as well. I mean, these are 10 things that I just brainstormed the other day. Human rights based, like number one, you need to make sure that when you're showing up for these young people, that you're holding their human rights at the center of everything that you do. Don't assume that you can make decisions for them in their best interest. Um, so, yep, human rights boundaries, hold them, make sure they're clear, make sure they're respectful. When we're working relationally, boundaries can maybe be a little bit blurred, but um, yourself in your profession or your role, whether that's as a parent, as a volunteer, as an educational support worker, as a therapist, as an outdoor facilitator, you know what the boundaries are. Make sure you hold them nice and clear, and it's your responsibility to hold those, not the young person's. Risk awareness, well, yeah, definitely always keep an idea of how people can run astray and get into a situation where they might get hurt. But I think risk awareness is more than that. It's about constantly um, reading the young person and where they, are they within their window of tolerance? Are you pushing them too far? Like, is the activity that you're running stretching them too much? Do you need to bring it back? Like, it's a very dynamic thing that you're always using to inform what you do. And you're looking at things like how they're presenting. Graham, his talk about dissociation was amazing. I think when you're working with young people, especially in the outdoors, if you're attuned to that and you're checking in and seeing that they're present within themselves, then they're most likely within their window of tolerance. When you push them outside of that, it gets a little bit scary. Um, Consent is amazing. It's amazing watching people ask kids if it's okay to do something, but the kids, you can tell they don't fully understand and they just say yes because they're not sure. So when we talk about informed consent, like just use abseiling as an example where we slide off a cliff on a rope. Um, you know, I always, when I'm running an abseil session, I always say to if I'm with other staff, I'm like, you almost need to um, overdo it in terms of checking in with the young people because, like, you might be constrained by time, by the expectations of wherever you're working. They might want to get these kids through, do these activities. So young people will feel the pressure to engage. But I think if you can actually slow it down and really get them to understand that what we're doing is, it's up to you to like show up in how it works for you. So one thing I love doing with abseiling, especially say if you're working for a school or something and you're about to run an abseil, and school teachers generally have this idea that everyone's going to participate, everyone's going to give it a go. So I always get up in front of the entire group when we're doing the safety brief and I say, all right, first thing I need you all to know today is that nobody cares whether you do this silly thing or not. Abseiling doesn't prove anything to anybody. It's sliding down a rope on a cliff. No normal human in their right mind would want to do that. I think it's great, but I think it's fun, but I'm not you. So right off the bat, nobody has to do this, and nobody is going to judge you if you stand there and watch. I say, if you can be here and have a great time, that's all that matters for me. And I love looking at the teachers when I say that. You can see them be like, oh. But it's true because if you force somebody to go and do something like an abseil, which is actually scary, like we know that, yeah, you've got a rope, the rope's super strong, you've got a harness, like it's safer than going on the bus or driving a car. Absolutely. But that doesn't matter because you're still putting a kid on a cliff and expecting them to trust this person who they've never met before and slide down. Um, so you go, well, look, you're trying to really inform them to say that you actually have a choice here. This is everything that I'm going to do to keep you safe, but it's up to you to step into that or not. And then with that comes things like, attunement. You like we spoke about before, you're trying to read each young person. You're trying to make sure that they're actually present with you, and that you're not just moving forward for the sake of moving forward. That you're actually checking in and going, "Yep, I can see that everyone's okay." Cultural humility. If you're working with a diverse group of people, you need to know where they're coming from. You need to check in just to go, well, is there anything about what we're about to do that might put pressures on what's culturally safe for you? Um, Again, confidentiality, I think that speaks for itself. Fierce dignity. I love this. Now, this is something that Graham spoke about. It's not his work. He took it from somewhere else, but I can't remember who said it. So, Graham, if you're watching, feel free to let us know. But fierce dignity, and in other circles, it's people define it as unconditional positive regard. So, if you're working with youth, say that is in um, out-of-home care, in youth services, perhaps. With kids with complex trauma, they show up with some pretty challenging behaviors sometimes, and often that's a maladaptive way of trying to survive. And if they feel unsafe, those behaviors, they come to the surface. Instead of reacting to, say, a behavior such as, I don't know, they might be swearing at you or something. You have to show up with positive regard. The harder things get, the more you need to respect their dignity. I don't know how many times I say sorry when there's a young person having a vent to me about how a service let them down, how they didn't get their settling or something. Instead of going, well, that's because you didn't report, that's because you didn't do this or that. It's not going to help. So instead, I'm like, I am so sorry that you feel this way or that things have let you down, but I am here to show up for you no matter what. You can vent, you can swear at me, you know, I'm still going to show up for you. And no matter how bad things get, I'm going to see you as a human. And I think what you're trying to do is exceptionally brave, um, that sort of stuff. Because at the end of the day, that's what counts. A safe grown up who can regulate themselves in times that are tough, showing you that they see you, that you're worth something as a human, that they actually value what your choice is. That's going to show them how to work through tough things rather than you being reactive yourself, and then you become into this feedback cycle of reacting to each other. And then, who's the grown up in the room, really? um, Transparency, don't hide stuff. Kids bullshit detector is finely attuned. So you gotta have to be 100% real. Do not lie to kids ever. You may not need to tell them everything, but don't lie to them because they know. Useful. Hey, I'm seeing some chat things happening there, Will. Is that something we need to talk about now?
No, it's not for you. Keep going.
That's not for me. Oh, well, who is it for? Um, so moving on to useful, you've set up an experience, where people are engaged, they feel safe to rock up how they want to be. You need to have some sort of map of where you're going. You need to make sure that, okay, it's great to have a fun and safe time, but if we really want to get something out of this, um, it'd be great if what we can do is having an impact in the right way. So with me, I'm always looking at trying to increase people's well-being, but it could be relevant to your whatever you're doing. Um, so useful, intentional, participant-led, relevant, reflective, goal-orientated or goal-aligned. It's adaptable. It's feedback-orientated. So I use or did use feedback-informed treatment where we measured the engagement on each session from each young person, but also measured whether or not they're finding it useful to increasing their well-being. Skill mastery, we spoke about strengths based, where you are doing things that are actually highlighting a young person's ability to succeed. And it's transferable. So it's great. Like you can have this experience with Doug or whoever you are, and they go, this was amazing. But then to take it to the next level is amazing if you can actually take that and they can apply it somewhere else in their life. Um, yeah. I kind of went a bit fast through that useful bit, so let's just go back and have a quick old look. Um, when we say participant led, it comes back to that feedback orientated approach. Throw something out there, see how it goes, get the feedback and go, all right, how can we make this more relevant to you? How can we make this more attuned to you? I remember one young fellow that I worked with a lot in the past year. When we do feedback, it always come back like when we do the feedback informed treatment questionnaire, listening would come back like as lower than the other scores. I'm like, oh, why is it that you keep saying that listening is not good? He's like, well, Doug, you listen to me, but often when I say something, you don't hear the word that I'm saying. And I'm like, oh, sorry, mate. But it was really interesting because he would, and what he was getting to me was he was saying that, like, when we're driving or something, that's when he wants to talk. But we might have the radio up, or we might be driving in the troopy, which is really loud. And so I would miss specific words, and he really wanted me to hear those words. So I needed to sort of change or make sure that I was more aware that when he was most likely to talk at these times, and it was really important to him that I heard the words, not just heard the narrative, but I actually heard the words. So making little adjustments each time, which makes a really big difference. Um, yeah. So fun, safe, useful. Fun keeps people engaged. Safe creates conditions for vulnerability and growth. Useful ensures change is meaningful and lasting. And if I like to think if we can use something as simple as this to influence or hold ourselves accountable to how we work with young people, we're going to make our interactions as meaningful as possible, but we're also going to be checking in with ourselves about going, how are we showing up each time we work with these young people? How are we showing them of what a safe, attuned person is, what a safe male is if you happen to be male? So then when they go through their transition towards being adults, they've got these these foundational moments where they can go, that person, that's what I want to be, or I want to take from them and how they dealt with this situation, and I want to try and do that myself. We're giving them an example, hopefully. Now, Will, I think you said this at some point, but I'm not exactly sure. So it could be yours, it could be mine, it could be somebody else's. But again, just linking back, if you're thinking of that abseil, what a fantastic opportunity for a survivor of family violence to say no and for us to respect and celebrate their voice. So if we go back to the statistics, take statistics with a grain of salt, but if 1 in 3 women have experienced sexual harassment by the age of 15, then it is guaranteed that you are going to be working with somebody that either has or is about to experience something negative in a gendered way. And you just don't know. So if you're providing an activity, let's use abseiling again as an example, where they have to trust you, they have to let go of some of their autonomy because they don't know how to abseil, and you are the expert, you hold a lot of power. If they turn to you and they say no, and you try and turn to them and say, well, actually, you are because I know better than you and this is good for you. If they've experienced something where their autonomy was taken away from them and their body, they didn't have control over their body and somebody did something to them, um, and it was an assault, then you're just another person in power disregarding their autonomy. Think of how powerful it is if they turn to you and say, no, I don't want to do that. And you go, you know what? Absolutely. Of course. You do what you need to do to have a good time here. This is just a rope. And if people want to have a go, they can. And you can come back and you can have another go. And if you get part way and you just turn around and you say, no, I'll bring you down again. I am never going to push you further than you want to go. Imagine how powerful that can be. This is totally 100% my quote. Um, I think it's a nice way to finish. with people that are leading experiences with young people. Again, that could be education, that could be care services, that could be outdoor education, could be therapy, could be sports coaches. This calls for deep ethical commitment, humility, and courage. Um, Especially male outdoor leaders can co-create experiences for resilience and growth, one relationship, one system, and one community at a time. And I think that leaves us a little bit of time that if there's any questions, if anyone wants to add their 2 cents, by all means.
Doug, should I stop the recording and we can have a conversation?
Sure.
Okay. Thanks so much, Doug. That was great.
No worries.